Going on? It's Kyle from K Capital. It is June 7th, 4:42 Eastern Standard Time. Last week was great. Last week was pretty amazing. And DRRX, just getting right into it. This position we've alerted three separate alerts: 220, 229, and 248. So we closed 220 right before the earnings call, as obviously the majority of you are aware, for a 16% return. We let half of the shares ride, which we actually just closed out last week at 297. So that's a 35% gain in a couple weeks. Through that time, as again you guys are aware, we alerted two more long entries at 229 and then again at 248. So those two other alerts now are still open. We're letting those ride. So between the two of those, we're up 41% and 30% in about 2.5 to 3 weeks time. So this is a great trade for us. Obviously, congrats to all you guys who have been in this. For the time being, we're going to let those other two positions just ride. See if we can get another pop, maybe up to 350 before we close out. But nonetheless, great trade for everybody. So congrats on you guys who got into that. Going to the next open alert, MRGE. This is one that I was pretty bearish on last week. It broke down this level of support, which I would consider the bottom of this breakout candle, which would be, I guess, a low of 452. So it broke out or broke down there, but then it bounced off of this level of support, so I held. Right now we're down roughly 4% in this. We bought in at 469. So, I mean, this is one that, ideally I would want to see continue to hold this level, but I've been saying that for now 2 weeks. It's about that time I think we either cut our losses or, basically just move on to another position. So we'll see how this plays out this week. I know I'm getting redundant in saying that, so I apologize for that, but, it's still really at that breaking point of either, breaking through our mental stop loss or kind of holding it and then continuing up to 5. So let's see how this plays out Monday and Tuesday. Right now I think it's a nice technical setup, but it just doesn't. It's taking too long to really play out. Next is one we alerted into twice, RMBS. So we alerted here at 14.19 and 13.96. So obviously we're sitting on a 7 and 9% return in a couple weeks. This is a great setup here. It's forming this flag formation that I think if this holds and this breaks, we should definitely see a pop to 16, which was our initial target. So let's wait to see how this kind of plays out. As you can see, it's bouncing against this level of resistance, but then also holding that level of support. So this is a pretty crucial play right here in the sense that the bulls and the bears are kind of going back and forth here, and it's okay, which way does this want to go? Personally, I think if history here is any indicator, this breaks out to continue higher. So let's hold on to this for a little bit, see what happens. Either way, it's a nice, solid, safe return in a couple weeks. Next is Chris. So Chris, we alerted at 13.13. It's obviously now at 3.13. It's at 352 now, or 13% profit. A beautiful chart here. From the get-go, one thing that caught my eye was the fact that it broke out here, and I was worried that it was going to break down here, but it held, and it's continuing to hold. So I think if this continues basically to trade sideways, eventually in the next week or two, we should see momentum up to 4, which would be a huge return for us again. So beautiful setup here. Obviously, this may be one we might add to, but obviously stay tuned for an alert before we actually execute any additional adds to that. Next is TNK. Another nice breakout setup here. The breakout candle, I expect the midpoint of that to hold, and that's what it did, I think, Thursday of last week, and then it kind of traded up a little bit before more or less being sold off into. That's one thing I look for is, if there's a breakout candle and it's going to retrace, to either add or buy at that level. So right now, if you look at this, the high is 770 in this breakout candle, the low is 681. Half of that would be roughly $1.10, so what's that, 55 cents down. So 55 cents down off the high, or 770 would be, whatever that is, 715, 720-ish area is where we look to add, and look to hold too as support. So right now we got in at 684. I think we're up roughly 10% in this in a couple weeks, a week or two tops. So another nice solid return. We'll take that. So just stay tuned for this. The one thing that might or kind of caught my eye is the fact that this did get sold off into this pop pretty quickly. So it's definitely a bearish signal. So this must be something we take profits Monday and just lock in this 10% gain. And last of the open swing alerts is TTMI. We are up 6% in this as we went long at 993. This is also forming a nice pennant formation or flag formation here. So, you know what I basically mean by that is, if you're following what I'm drawing here, as the bulls and bears are going back and forth here. They're kind of debating which way this is going to go. If you look at a prior period where this actually happened, you can kind of see it happened here, where you kind of saw a nice flag formation and then it broke out. So it's 6%, and I think in less than a week, you know, our target here is definitely 11. Personally, I think because this is consolidating the way it is, the trend overall will hold, and I think this will break north again. So another great setup that we have. You know, that's what, 5 open alerts right now on the swing side, and obviously we have SD, Sandridge as one of our long-term plays, which I'm not going to get into here because there's actually 2 charts that I wanted to touch upon, which are new to the watch list. So the first one of those is Neon, and I added this I think last week, I think Wednesday or Thursday. I didn't really see anything that indicated a good entry-level play here, but you know, one thing that did catch my eye is, one, the volume. It seems like, you know, after this nice positive earnings release back on, I guess, May 6th, you know, volume has been pretty much up, and it's been holding kind of this level of support at like 350. So what I'm going to more or less watch for here is to see how this trades and to see if it continues to hold that price pattern. If we go back a year, you know, this chart is okay. It's nothing that I would be super excited about, but it is definitely trading, you know, above average volume over the last couple months. So that's definitely an indicator that something's going on. So we'll take a look at this next week and see what happens. Fundamentally, they did do a license agreement with Samsung. So it's a pretty big company. So, you know, this company isn't, you know, a mom and pop operation, to say the least. So let's take a look and see how that plays out next week. And then a new one is actually IMU. So I've seen this chart a few times, or this company, in my past. You know, I traded this I think 2 years ago for a small gain. Right now, though, you know, I think this is a pretty decent setup. They had a nice spike in volume, and one thing that I think would be a key indicator is if they can break this level of resistance right here, the 430 to 439 level. So if they can do that, I think it's a nice pop to maybe 5, which would be a pretty decent return. So, you know, it's bouncing across this pattern here. So obviously you have the resistance up top, support at the bottom, but this really thing that caught my eye is the volume breakout here. So I think they did 2.1 million versus an average, I think, of 100 or 820,000 shares. They did 2.2 in one day. So obviously that's a nice bullish indicator. So let's take a look at these two Monday. I'll see how they're trading at the open. Obviously, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please let me know. And we'll talk soon, like always. So have a great Sunday, and I'll talk to you guys soon.